I have this topic coming up on VooDoo, on lots of things because, well, unfortunately, if we don't know what it is, what it looks like, we are participating in it as well. And so let's go ahead and just jump right in. It says zombies, voodoo dolls, evil spells, animal sacrifices, and Hollywood horror scenes of possessed people drinking blood. When you hear the words voodoo and Santeria, chances are those are the images that come to mind. But talk to anyone who actually practices one of these Caribbean religions and they'll tell you that those stereotypes are way off base. This is what I'm most interested in. I don't want to hear about their opinion on these things. I want to actually get into the practice of it because they asked a practitioner about it. It says, voodoo has been a part of Antonio Vicioso's life since before he was born. My house was full of candles, he remembers. All right, so candles are a part of things. Candles are used on the household altars to the saints called Iwa in voodoo and Orishas in Santeria. Make a mental note of that. Iwas and Orishas. Vicioso's mother named him for Saint Anthony, to whom she prayed when she hoped to become pregnant. In the Dominican Republic, though, Saint Anthony isn't just a Catholic saint. His depiction on an altar can also refer to Papa Legba, the Iwa of the crossroads. Have we all heard this before? Crossroads. And also, just take note. Take all the clues in that you can. They're saying this is a part of an overlap of Catholic saints also. So back to the crossroads. It can also refer to Papa Legba, the Iwa of the crossroads, who opens doorways and makes things possible. So they can make things happen. Vicioso's mother later became a born-again Christian. How does that work? But he found himself drawn to the gods of Dominican voodoo. Vicioso grew up in the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and New York before making his way west to Eugene. Tall and rail thin, with piercing eyes, Vicioso, who plays locally with his band Anaba Tierra, embodies the balance between relaxation and intensity that characterizes the Caribbean. It was through music, really, he says, of how he became involved in Dominican voodoo. A voice inside me said I would work with Dominican rhythms. So this is where it pulled me in because I have a history in college. My last 2 years, I was so into dancing. I was a hip-hop dancer. And I cannot explain any of what I experienced while doing hip-hop in such a way that he is about to express. It was exactly what I unfortunately experienced when I would dance. He's going to explain how certain aspects of music work together to make this happen. The rhythms Vicioso works with are the ones used to bring down the spirits in Dominican voodoo. I guess that's how they say that. The form of voodoo found in the Dominican Republic is different from Haitian voodoo. You'll find that, voodoo is practiced a little bit differently in every part of the world, but it's still pretty much the same. So it's different from Haitian voodoo, though they share a common ancestry. Dominican voodoo has its own strong spirits, says Vicioso. Voodoo and Santeria are possession religions, so bringing down these strong spirits means helping those spirits enter into a believer's body. So I want you guys to hear it straight from a practitioner of this, that is what it's all about. And the combination between Catholicism mirrors it a bit, Santeria mirrors voodoo. They all share common aspects, and he's going to bring other things into it, I think, as well. Also says voodoo and Santeria and their sister religions like Dominican voodoo are monotheistic like Christianity. This is one area that is confusing, can blow your mind a bit, but he says there is one God called Bondi in the Haitian Creole of VooDoo or Olodumare in Santeria, which combines African and Spanish. Now you're combining African and Spanish voodoo and witchcraft together. All right, craziness. So it combines African and Spanish terms in its worship, but this deity is far away and hard to reach, supposedly. Instead, practitioners appeal to a pantheon of spirits, the Iwa and the Orishas, that are similar to Catholic saints, to intercede when something is needed. All right, so he's actually exposing a lot here. But this is where it gets deeper. The article says the spirits have particular personalities, colors, and characteristics that epitomize each of them. In voodoo, Urzuli Frida is a goddess of love and longing, symbolized by a heart, and Ogun is a god of iron and war. Papa Getty is a Iwa of death with a cross. Interesting, isn't it? A cross as its symbol. But because death and life are intertwined, his symbol is also, and forgive me, we are going to be blunt on this, but it is also the male member, as it says there. And he grants health and fecundity. So the part that we just read stands out to me for one reason when it starts saying that each spirit has particular personalities, colors, and characteristics that epitomize each of them. This is what witches do. Each month has certain festivals, or they call them sabbats in them, or festivals and holidays. And they will choose certain colors, certain smells, certain candles, you name it. Like everything is centered around a different crystal of a different color for each month, for each god. And there's multiple gods, there's multiple festivals in a month even. So that's not even true. There's more than one happening, but this mirrors witchcraft and Wiccanism very highly as well. They just usually incorporate doing crafts as well. I don't know if you know that, but being very hands-on with harvesting and their altars that they set up and then doing a craft. So believers, now they call themselves believers. Isn't that kind of intertwined with Christianity to the point where it makes no sense? They can call themselves believers if you ask them if they're a believer. I think for me that's a problem. Believers communicate with the spirits through reading oracles like cards, consulting divinatory seashells, or throwing pieces of coconut and reading the results. They say they can also communicate directly with the spirits during a ceremony in which the spirits possess other participants who have gone through a long initiation process. Okay, drums, clapping, music, and singing are used to bring on spirit possession. Now here is what kind of hit me right in the heart when I said that I could not put into words, even as much as this is about to, what I felt when I was in hip-hop music. It says each spirit has his or her own rhythms and songs that are played both to bring the possession on and to quote-unquote unhorse the spirit at the end, says Vicioso. So why this matters to me is because when I danced it was very soon into my middle school years that I realized I had such a draw towards hip hop and rap music. It didn't matter if, I grew up in a Christian home. I was homeschooled. I was like a very kind of Little House on the Prairie type of kid who was very innocent, very good, very much a wallflower. And I had certain, things that I wanted to, frustrations even about being overlooked sometimes and all these things, certain things I wanted to express. So that was how I did that. And I didn't really show my family much. I usually did it in my own room or by myself, where I would dance to these things. And ironically, there's always inspiration. Why? Because inspiration doesn't really come from God, I feel like, unless you prayed for it to be Him and not something else. And certain things, of course, that doesn't apply anyway. Like, I'll be honest, certain activities that you do, you can't pray that God is the thing that moves you and does it, because that activity in and of itself is wrong. So anyway, getting back to my story, I showed my family once or twice, and it was still kind of, kept on the down low. And then I went to college and I decided I was going to go from being the wallflower who, already didn't have to worry about kind of getting good grades, to suddenly learning how to be popular and having popularity, good looks, and to dance fully, to let it kind of go. But what I was getting at is that the inspiration would come on and I would have all kinds of choreography fill my mind. And it wasn't just that I had to practice the choreography. No, the choreography would be in my mind and I would just end up seeing it like pages opening like a book, and it being like a moving image. And somehow I did it too. And so it was like downloads, it was not very good at all. And I had no clue what this was. They didn't talk about at all any of this kind of music in our church, and that it was bad or anything. And so I had no clue. People wouldn't touch rap or hip hop music at church. In fact, most of the time they didn't touch the whole music topic. So anyway, once I jumped into that world and I kind of let it go, meaning I totally gave into it, I was doing really good. Meaning I did make it up the social ladder. I was popular. I did do great in my last 2 years of college. And when I went to parties, I didn't do any of the drugs or drinking or sleeping around. What I was doing was mingling with people, kind of being the it girl, and then dancing. And I just, after like one or two, even maybe a third time that I went to these parties, when I'd never been to a party in my life before, mind you, I found myself kind of not remembering what I would do and being very scared. What did I do? Tell me what motions I did or whatever. And most people didn't want to tell me either. They were just kind of like, it was amazing, you're great, whatever. In any case, I just remember that the more I gave into this feeling as well, and I danced and I would be welcomed on stage and everything because apparently I was good, I could do things that I'd never practiced before. I could do things that I didn't know I was capable of. Unfortunately, I did have like a totally ugly face going on, kind of like Beyonce, and I would distinctly feel that once I got up onto the stage steps, I would not know what I was doing. I was just kind of all into the feeling. And certain climaxes of rhythm would hit me so hard to actually give in further, to have powerful motions. I knew I was doing powerful motions, but I could not really remember anything else. And then once I walked down the steps or got off the stage and stopped dancing, then my consciousness would kind of come back. And so for me, I can still feel like certain music, even Christian music has it in it, by the way, guys. It'll have a certain rhythm that it's played at, and then it starts climbing. It starts climbing and increasing. I can start feeling like my heart is rising just like it used to, and swelling with those feelings sometimes right before I would give into what I now know as demon possession. And it scared me so much that it felt powerful at the time. And I'll show you what kind of dancing it was. It was not really that pretty, and it wasn't good. A lot of shaking your fists at people, acting like you're hitting them, and kind of dissing them the whole time, putting them down, like a lot of stuff. Anyway, to this extent, yes, I deeply knew that when certain rhythms were played in a certain way as well, that it was starting to happen to me, meaning each spirit has his or her own rhythm and songs. And that is something that is not very well known in the Christian world. It's not very spoken about. So to have it come straight from the horse's mouth, if you will, right from the practice that is voodoo, that this all originated from it, these rhythms and worship and demon possession along with it. As you heard, it comes from this. This is really what we're doing when we're into this kind of music. Now I know why, and they're going to explain it so well. So let's go ahead and continue. Drums, clapping, music, and singing are used to bring on spirit possession. Each spirit has his or her own rhythms and songs that are played both to bring the possession on and to unhorse the spirit at the end, like I used to all of a sudden be unleashed at the end when I got off the stage. That's literally what does happen to you. So the next paragraph says, those who are possessed are called horses or chwal in Haitian Creole, because the Iwa are said to ride or mount them. So the Iwa was a spirit, again, as a person rides a horse. When Papa Getty mounts a chwal, his dances are playful and sexually suggestive. Women, this is how sexual it gets, guys, and it was very provocative, the dances I used to do. It says women will bump their crotches up against him to ensure fertility. Once someone is possessed, that person takes on the characteristics of the Iwa or Orisha, a group, a collective of spirits, regardless of gender. So a man can be possessed by a female spirit and will take on feminine attributes while possessed. So let's speak to this for a minute, because you do see, right? You do see in a lot of these dance moves, it's kind of like Dirty Dancing. They're just grinding up on each other. And that kind of, everything kind of deteriorates into that, no matter if it's rap or hip hop or pop dances. It's all about that. So I can make that correlation, but man, how do I tell you this? Even though I was feminine, sometimes it was not flattering and it wasn't fun to hear at all, but it's like you kind of have a mean face when you dance, and you can kind of look like, what did I get once? It was like, you look like one of the male rappers with long dreads. And I was like, what? Because I always have I still do, but I have long curly hair that kind of can look, I don't know, of that descent. And that it put me off of dancing for a while, because I didn't want to look that way. But you kind of end up lumbering around a bit, and so you can end up looking not so feminine until another type of rhythm comes on, and then all of a sudden you might be kind of like, Beyonce or Shakira, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, okay, I got this. Like, feminine sexuality is coming on all together. So this is what drew me into this article, but we're going to expose it and go even deeper. As a drummer at Dominican voodoo ceremonies, Vicioso plays to bring down the spirits. Listening to the beats of his drums, even somewhere as prosaic as a classroom in Eugene, where Vicioso plays to educate University of Oregon, I believe, students about the religion, it's not too hard to understand how the rhythms can bring on a trance. Okay, so think your raves, trances like voodoo, the African dances, all this stuff. That's what I was feeling. Okay, the last sentence, The repetitive sounds wind their way around the room, and the songs are sinuous and haunting. You know, as we know, it's not always haunting. It's just a rhythm we really like that makes us start moving to it and starts taking us to a place that's higher usually. And they always say that it's higher, but it's usually just kind of giving in. It says some voodoo saints become possessed without even the aid of music, says Vicioso. I know people who ring a bell next to them and they're possessed, he says. Their voice changes and they start doing things that are out of this world, and they do it very naturally. You guys know this. Not because it's a bell, but hypnosis looks like that. That is where hypnosis comes from too. You guys were kind of practicing the black, not to put a pun on it, but black magic arts of the African world and Santeria world. So Spanish, African, Caribbean gods here. He tells of a time a Petwo spirit from the fiery side of the voodoo pantheon picked up a glass and chomped it down. Okay, we are going to see that later. But let's take a break real quick and let's see what some of this might look like. We really do need to take a look.
The Kumpo dance is considered as the guardian of the village and a spreader of goodness in the community's life. In this belief, when the Kumpo dance is performed, straw dolls can interact and speak to the audience in a secret language understood only by the Kumpo handler, who serves as the interpreter. This mystical dance is closely tied to voodoo, as a branch of the animistic spiritual tradition originating from the ancestors of the West African people. Although many believe that voodoo is associated with black magic and curses using dolls as a medium, the reality is different. The presence of Kumpo is linked to the forest where it originates, explaining its rough and natural appearance. It is entirely covered with thin, dried palm leaves and carries a stick on its head, used as support during the fast and bewildering dance. The speed of its rotation even makes us wonder if a human can move in such a way, spinning so rapidly that it seems not to touch the ground. According to tradition, Kumpo is not a human but a spirit that is not only revered but also feared. Therefore, it is inappropriate or not allowed to inquire about who is inside. Touching or looking into the palm leaves is considered an insult.
Trying to prove it's not man-made, or it's not a man in there. So before we go back, we're going to see how this works.
This is also considered as a sign of wealth,
They took one off,
both in offspring and human enterprise,
disc
that
was
ancestors
moving,
bring
and they
to
found
the
this little
community
thing.
when they are celebrated. But a man cannot give birth, so the ancestors are neither male nor female and have the power to do anything. That's why Zangbeto is neither male nor female, but can function as both.
He kept saying it. It's neither male nor female. They can function as both. If you're asking yourself how many different types of spirits and spirit type of problems are we going to find with this? Well, if we are understanding this correctly, some of that pride, gay pride, comes from this too. And you can be given the spirit to do that. And then a side note, I'm sorry, you guys, I used to be a Star Wars fan. This reminds me of Yoda. And as cute and tiny as he is, he's probably as big as this with the little cane. And the originals, that's what that little tiny guy that they were showing us looks like to me. And Yoda, you never know if he's truly male or female either, really. So, and they can just move. And Yoda is also one of the high masters in the Jedi Order that is so able to move agilely and has lots of extra powers corresponding with this little tiny guy. This is a dance we're going to look at that you also have to have the spirits in you for.
During the performance, the dancer changes once he wears the mask, and the spirits take control of him. He is separated from all that is around him. Once he puts on the mask, it's no longer him that is dancing, but the spirit that possesses him. When this happens, the dance is fast and furious. Dust starts to rise up from his feet. Provoked to keep up the pace by the rhythm of the drums and flute, it's a supernatural effort, guided by the spirits.
It's an interesting dance because they say that particular dance can be done for like hours, if I'm not mistaken, and if not, lots of lengths of period of time. And you could also imagine that, my brain went to this too. You could see Aztec and Mayan people doing this dance as well. Some of his costume reminds me of that. So it's like there's the crossover we're talking about. It's not just Santeria and voodoo and Haitian voodoo. It could be, can we talk about spirits coming from the same place but being exposed in different ways throughout different cultures? I believe that's what it is. So you could find it in those cultures as well. And, again, he said the mask slides on. And once the mask is on, the spirit takes over. And you see that sometimes right when someone, I hate to say this, but it's like Michael Jackson. Once he puts on a mask or a certain show, and celebrities do this too, and actors, they're transformed into a different person. They even call it method acting. And so, it's like, do you guys see that? I hope you guys are seeing this. I'm putting together some of the pieces, and it's very interesting, isn't it? All right, let's go back. There is a full video, or a little clip, that has what I used to do as dancing. This comes from Step Up 2. Of course, Step Up was kind of one of my favorite movies. They have 1, 2, and 3, and possibly even 4 by now. But I'll show you what kind of, if you want to call it flailing, yes, but it's mostly centered around the heartbeat and hearing rhythms that sound like the heart and moving fast and also pumping your chest. So let's take a look. Do you see the aggression in there? I had some aggression I was getting out from, anger somewhere. And that's, it's fun to actually act like you're hitting someone and kind of get the faster you do the motion, the quicker it feels like you're actually doing it. And so there's that in there. Once you saw that dance, there's the seductiveness. There's the, just all of those components we've been talking about that the spirits bring on in these dolls, even that dance, or people who are possessed. This is exactly what you're seeing. And so, there must be a crossover. This is the guy. I have 2 videos that show different things, but they're doing the same thing. They're eating glass, but this guy, you can look at his eyes while he's doing it. He definitely has the reptilian look going on.
Khơi hả? Bà, ô.
He's showing that he just ate glass by spitting out.
Bà lấy xong rồi pui trên mà plương hoi tem đó bà ô cô che từ cô từ cây tem đó bà xong chơi mà đó muối pi bay ấp.
And quickly we will go to this other guy. Do we ever think about this? Like, this is, in some ways, again, this is where we sometimes think that this is aliens or something happening that's so supernatural. And of course it is, but it's also dark supernaturalness that we're not supposed to be a part of. The guy was eating glass right here, picked up a glass and chomped it down, eating the shards without any signs of pain. Vicioso laughs and says, the woman who owned the house where the ceremony took place came running, and she said with irritation, I just bought those glasses. So it's just all good fun. Once the spirit has entered the body of a voodoo sant, the Iwa then interacts with the other participants in the ceremony. And Iwa is a spirit, remember. The spirit gives much needed advice and healing. Possession at these ceremonies is not demonic or evil, they think. It is a basic part of the religion, Vicioso says. It is beautiful and valuable, a natural healing religion. So, we need to talk about this because it's not a natural healing religion. When you are possessed, this is what we need to talk about as well, because they believe it's healing that's happening. That certain people are convulsing and certain other people are starting to laugh and others they're sick, and all of a sudden they are able to be healed. And supposedly demons are supposed to be able to be cast out, but it's weird, isn't it? Like, that you can have a people who they just told you this whole religion is about being possessed, and yet somehow it's a good thing for healing and so on. We have to go down where it says the drums he plays are powerful instruments according to Vicioso, and always have been. That's why they banned the drums, he says, of the Haitian slave owners. Interesting, slave owners who tried to stop the religion during its early days in the New World. Voodoo and its rhythms have been vilified and banned since before the Haitian Revolution that made Haiti the second independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. It was a drum ceremony led by a Haitian voodoo priest called an Hungan that kicked off Haiti's successful slave revolution. He says having a nation of freed slaves so close to the U.S. was like a sore thumb, Vicioso says. Demonizing voodoo was done on purpose, he says, through the media and through Hollywood, and that demonizing continues to this day. According to Vicioso, the real dark powers aren't in Caribbean religions. They're here in the U.S. There's black magic in Washington, Vicioso says of the current Bush administration. That's zombieism to the highest level to me. That's a lot right there that he just mentioned. And I want to talk to you guys about that because in Christian movies, they will demonize it a little bit. But you know what? It's pretty much everywhere in Hollywood. They're not demonizing. They're actually adding a lot of these components of music, sacrifices and horror and fear and all these things that bring in open doors for demons as well. So can you really say that? No, he's a little bit off. He just doesn't see it fully as voodoo because it's not the full practice which he is into. Then he says something interesting further in the article. The African peoples brought their gods and beliefs with them, but were forbidden by the enslaving Europeans to practice their native religions. One justification put forth for slavery was the belief it was better to be enslaved and Christian than it was to be free and heathen. The slaves saw parallels. Here we go. So even to them, there were parallels between their gods and the saints that are a part of the Catholic religion. The powerful Orisha, or group of spirits, called Chango in Santeria, for example, is a god of lightning. In Santeria, Chango became linked up with the Catholic Saint Barbara, who is often depicted with a bolt of lightning behind her. Thus, an altar to Chango would bear both an African carving of Chango and a Catholic lithograph of Saint Barbara. The name Santeria itself comes from the idea that when the African slaves appeared to be worshiping the Catholic saints, or santos, they were actually venerating the Orishas. Most voodoo saints and santeros in the Caribbean are also Catholic or Protestant. Very interesting. It says an old and oft-cited joke in Haiti goes, Haiti is 80% Roman Catholic, 15% Protestant, and 100% voodoo. All right. So I, again, don't feel like I need to read all of this, but what they're going to say, let's just cut down to this part here below, is that as it all happened, practitioners left the Caribbean and migrated to the U.S. and elsewhere. They brought their gods and beliefs with them. The immigrants continued to practice their religion and pass it on to others who feel called to it by the spirits. Initiates called Iawos wear white during their initiation year and are brought into the religion by a madrino or padrino or godparent who oversees the process and helps the Iawo communicate with the spirits. Sitting by the front door is what looks like a concrete head with shells for eyes resting in the middle of what appears to be a small house filled with toys and candy and flanked by burning candles. This is an altar of a Legua, I guess, a Santeria spirit that corresponds roughly to Papa Legba of voodoo. Both are gods of the doorways, spirits that make things possible. A Legua likes toys and candy, things to do with kids, says Hardson. Though animals are sometimes sacrificed to the spirits of voodoo and Santeria, most gifts that are given to the gods are items like perfume and alcohol or foods like candy, honey, or apples. The spirits are honored through lighting candles and refreshing glasses of water on their altars. Animal sacrifice, probably even more so than spirit possession, is one of the misunderstood parts of the religion. Even though they're highlighting animal sacrifice and water and candy and toys, first of all, that sounded very pedophilia-like to me. Like, get the kids in early, initiate them, have them get into, pulling them in the door with candy and toys because the spirit likes it. And then with this whole animal sacrifice thing and possession, follow with me. Maybe you've been seeing some of the stuff with the Epstein files. Maybe you've been seeing some of what the survivors are saying. As children, they were chained in basements and they were actually sacrificed. They have kids, they have babies that are sacrificed. That is something that, let's just be honest, when you do get into deeper Santeria practitioners and their testimonials as well as in voodoo, it does happen. And that is actually where I'm going to go, because when I was doing this motion, as you saw in the earlier modern film that was doing the dancing, the step up, and they're pumping their chests as though her heart was going to come up out of her chest, this is a marker, a normal textbook example of voodoo being used. And it usually was used on someone getting ready to be sacrificed. Because, as I mentioned, the Aztecs, the Mayans, they would sometimes have these dances as well. And in voodoo, where the sacrificee is giving of their heart, being overtaken by the spirits to be possessed, and then they're going to be given in sacrifice with their heart taken out whole from that move, pumping the chest. And that used to be my favorite move. And it came out of nowhere. Like, it's most people. If you are in hip hop or pop or rap or any of these dance moves, you're going to get to that. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen pretty naturally within you. And it comes out of nowhere from the rhythm, just as they're saying. And you know what? Now I know why. And I feel like God is opening my eyes to these things. I've, of course, not done any dancing since the last year of my college. And that's been a very long while ago. And I thank God that He's showing me what I was into, because that is the biggest problem here. And I'm ashamed, of course, of what I did. I can honestly say that I was practicing voodoo. And really, what is voodoo is really part of Baal worship. And if that's a far stretch for you, maybe you need to go watch my Pagan Origins one. And what is Baal? A Rain Man is what it's called. The Rain Man video. Because it kind of ties some of this together in the music industry and dance industry. And that will put it together for you. I've also covered frequency magic, which controls you. That's one of our videos also, which will put together the pieces. I'm putting together all the pieces from my own experience and the research I've found that explains what I guess what I went through. I've done the research for you to understand how music and frequency and rhythm happens and how all this plays into together. And so I'm really hoping that each part of this is as much of an eye-opener to you as it was to me. Thank goodness you guys don't have to go through feeling it, like the shame and regret and all of that, even though I've been forgiven. But how many of us are actually participating or cherishing and loving these kinds of songs and dancing to them and letting it overtake us? And we don't realize that this is a completely pagan practice. Like I said, I hope that it convicts people. I hope that it makes sense. I've shown it straight from a voodooist's mouth and their understanding of the practice and what it's about. I love you. I want you guys to be set free. I'm exposing it. I hope it makes sense. Thank you guys for watching. I do have something new on the horizon that I wanted to share with you guys. I made an app to help lose fat, stay in shape, and build muscle year-round while using food to achieve long-term health and longevity. You can find it at longevity-cycle.com. It will create a personalized calendar of recipes to help you stay on track and take the guesswork out of what to eat and when. It'll teach you the irritants to avoid, to not have chronic inflammation, slowed emptying, bloating, gas, arthritis, fibromyalgia, digestive discomfort, and related issues throughout the body. Check what you have on the shopping list, and it generates the rest for your daily or weekly grocery trip. Get it for $3.99 at longevity-cycle.com. So this is something I created because, well, I get a lot of questions about how I eat and stay in shape. And this is kind of how I do it. And I've been able to help others who have metabolic syndrome. They eat well, but they don't understand why they're not gaining or losing weight. They're not looking better. They have bloating. They have other issues going on as well that are complicating the matter, like unfortunately, Mikey was fitting into this category. And when I made this app and I put him on the plan, he went ahead and he lost a pound a day. And actually, to this day, he's still on it, and he still is. We did take a break and he got back onto it after that, but he's still seeing the same results. So it's based on research. It has all the stuff backing it. I teach you all about it. There's learning modules in there, everything, and it is the one price for a lifetime. So if you need that and you love it, go ahead and check it out. It's longevity-cycle.com. But thank you guys for tuning in so much. We love you guys. We can't do without you. So if you'd like to go ahead and support our ministry, we would appreciate it. We need you. Here are all of our links and payment methods to do so. And I hope you guys were just blessed. May God bless you guys. We also have plenty of merchandise on our website, CandidTruthOrg, that you can go ahead and purchase. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.